correspondent Ryan Burrow. Ryan, good morning.
Good morning. All right, so here are your updates today. The water rescues are pretty minimal at this point. So what's happening is the fire department is starting to switch over from rescue mode into recovery mode, and that means going from door to door, house to house. They're going to start in these areas that receive more than 3 feet of water inside of homes, and they're just going to check up on people, make sure, A, that they're not there, or B, if they are still there, that they're in good shape. And then what they'll do is they'll mark a C on the door, and then they'll move on to the next one. This, unfortunately, is kind of the time when you may see some of these death toll numbers rise a little bit because of the people who maybe weren't able to get out or weren't able to call 911. Now firefighters are going to get their first kind of view of that. There was another curfew last night. We'll get an update from the mayor here pretty soon as to how that went. The first night seemed to go off without any hitches, no citations, no looting or anything like that. And then we're keeping our eye on this chemical plant in northeast Houston. I don't know how familiar you are with this story.
Yeah, we've just heard that the plant exploded, but it isn't near anything.
Well, here's the deal. It's not near a ton of area as far as residential. They have moved people about 1.5 miles away to evacuate because there are chemicals that are stored in here. They're organic peroxides, and they're supposed to be refrigerated. If they're not, they're very, very flammable, and they can explode. And it's been several days now without power. They had backup power. That did not work. They brought in some vans and trucks to put them in to keep them cool, and, of course, they got flooded. So they pulled everyone out. They told everyone to get away, and essentially they're going to let this thing burn and explode out. There were reports of 2 explosions. The sheriff's department kind of pulled back on that and said not so much explosions as chemical releases. 10 deputies had to go to the hospital. 9 brought themselves. 1 was taken to a hospital. Apparently non-toxic irritant, so hopefully they'll be okay. Non-life-threatening situation there, but just got an update from authorities there. We're going to listen in on that in just a little bit, and I'll have more information for you coming up later today on what they had to say.
Ryan Burrow, what about the 2 dams? I heard that the water was starting to overtop the dams.
Yeah, this is kind of blowing all of these flood control officials' minds right now because they thought when the water would stop falling from the sky, we would start seeing the water go down, the water levels go down. That's not the case. Obviously, there is some flowage getting into there in one form or another, and they're not quite sure how or why that's happening. These neighborhoods have been flooded out. It's just a matter of when the floodwaters will stop rising. And it doesn't sound as though they're getting too many calls for 911 rescues at this point, but just understanding why the water is going the way it does, is baffling a lot of the flood control officials. Right
Ryan,
now.
What about when the water recedes and all the health risks? They're not only with the mold, but the alligators and other creatures.
Yeah. That's a huge concern right now. The water supply, another concern in portions of St. Louis. They are concerned. They do have boil alerts, although some people are without power and can't even, fire up their electric stove to boil the water. So that's a concern. The concern, too, at the shelters. Don't forget, they have teams at these shelters that's just tracking to make sure that diseases aren't spreading among the evacuees that are in these shelters. You do have concerns about rodents and alligators, as you mentioned. Snakes have appeared, and concerns about that. Garbage pickup just began. They're going to start that back up again, which is huge because these people have been in their home essentially for a week now and have been unable to get rid of some of the the food that's been rotting inside of their home for a while now. So that's supposed to start back up again, and they're going to do the best they can, and they do have plenty of medical teams on staff to kind of keep track of these things.
I know you're in Houston, but Beaumont and Port Arthur, how bad are they hit up the road?
The mayor of Beaumont just did an interview with Good Morning America, and, he said that the water is starting to recede now. They did get hit very, very hard. Lots of power outages there as well, and they are actually hoping to get underway with recovery. So hopefully the mayor seemed optimistic, let's put it that way. I don't know if he's been able to capture the whole gravity of the situation yet because he himself was flooded, but he's hoping to get out and about and begin that recovery effort as soon as possible.
Ryan Burrow, extraordinary work. Get some sleep. Thanks for checking in. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right, take care.
You got it.